The town of Riverbend was the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to happen. It sat quietly beside a slow, brown river, surrounded by old trees and narrow streets lined with familiar faces. People waved at each other in the mornings. Shop owners knew their customers by name. News usually traveled slowly, carried by casual conversations rather than sirens. That calm routine shattered on a cold Monday morning when police cars appeared outside a small apartment building on Maple Street. Emily Carter was found dead just after sunrise. She was 32 years old, a history teacher at the local middle school, and someone many people described as gentle and thoughtful. Emily lived alone in a modest second-floor apartment. She kept her windows clean, her books neatly arranged, and a small plant by the kitchen sink. When her neighbor noticed that Emily's lights had been on all night and her car hadn't moved in 2 days, concern grew. A welfare check was called in. Minutes later, officers were standing inside her apartment, staring at a scene that didn't make sense. Emily was lying on her bed as if she had gone to sleep and never woken up. There were no signs of struggle, no broken furniture, no blood. The door was locked from the inside. The room was quiet, almost peaceful, yet something was terribly wrong. Paramedics pronounced her dead at the scene. The cause of death was not clear, and that uncertainty made the room feel colder. By mid-morning, word spread through Riverbend. Teachers whispered in the school hallways. Parents checked their phones in disbelief. Students cried when the announcement was made that classes would end early. Emily was not just a teacher. She was someone who listened, someone who stayed late to help struggling students, someone who remembered birthdays and favorite books. Her death felt unreal, like a bad rumor that would soon be corrected. Police searched the apartment carefully. They opened drawers, checked trash bins, and scanned every surface. Emily's wallet was on the table. Her phone was charging near the bed. Nothing was missing. No threatening letters were found. Her laptop showed lesson plans, research notes, and emails to colleagues. It was as if Emily's life had been paused in the middle of an ordinary day. Detectives were puzzled. Crimes in Riverbend were usually simple. A stolen bike. A bar fight. This was different. There was no clear reason why anyone would want Emily dead. She had no known enemies. No history of dangerous behavior. Friends told police she had been happier recently, talking about new plans and changes she wanted to make in her life. As the hours passed, the case grew colder. Without witnesses or obvious clues, investigators had little to work with. The medical examiner later confirmed that Emily had not died of natural causes, but the exact method was unclear. There were no marks on her body, no immediate signs of violence. It was a death that hid its secrets well. That evening, Emily's younger sister Megan arrived in Riverbend. She had driven all night after receiving the call that changed everything. Megan and Emily were close, even though they lived in different towns. They spoke almost every day, often late at night, sharing jokes, worries, and small details of life. Megan could not believe her sister was gone. Walking into Emily's apartment felt like stepping into a memory that refused to move on. In her grief, Megan searched for answers. She talked to police, to neighbors, to Emily's co-workers. Everyone said the same thing. They didn't understand how this could happen. There were no clear leads. The investigation felt slow, careful, and frustrating. That night, alone in a hotel room, Megan opened her laptop. She scrolled through old photos of Emily, smiling at birthdays, laughing during holidays, standing proudly in her classroom. Megan felt a deep fear that Emily's story would fade, that her case would become another unsolved mystery no one talked about anymore. So Megan decided to do something. She logged into Facebook and chose a photo of Emily taken a few months earlier. Emily was standing outside the school, sunlight on her face, her smile warm and familiar. Megan wrote a short message, her hands shaking as she typed. She asked anyone who had seen Emily in her final days to come forward. She asked for help. She asked people not to forget. When Megan clicked post, she didn't expect much. But within minutes, the reactions began to appear. Friends shared memories. Former students left comments saying how much Emily had meant to them. Strangers from nearby towns offered condolences. The post spread faster than Megan could follow. It crossed town lines, then county lines, reaching people who had never met Emily but felt connected to her story. By the next morning, the post had thousands of reactions. Hearts, sad faces, messages of support filled the screen. Megan felt overwhelmed but grateful. It felt like Emily mattered to the world, not just to her family. As the post continued to grow, it became part of the investigation. Police monitored comments, hoping someone might say something useful. Most messages were emotional but unhelpful. People shared theories, rumors, and guesses. Still, detectives watched carefully. Sometimes, the smallest detail could matter. Late that night, while the town slept, the post continued to receive reactions. Megan didn't see them right away. She had finally fallen asleep, exhausted by grief and unanswered questions. But somewhere else in Riverbend, a phone screen glowed in the dark. At exactly 3:17 in the morning, a single reaction appeared on the post. Not a heart. Not a crying face. Just a like. It didn't look important. It didn't stand out to most people. In the endless stream of reactions, it was easy to miss. But that simple blue thumb belonged to someone with a name that meant something. Someone connected to Emily's past. Someone who, at that moment, revealed more than they realized. The post would not die. It stayed active, shared again and again, carrying Emily's face and name across the internet. And hidden within all that noise was one quiet action, waiting for the right eyes to notice it. That like would change everything. Detective Laura Hayes had learned long ago that answers did not always hide in dark alleys or locked rooms. Sometimes they lived in ordinary places, in habits people thought were too small to matter. She had worked in Riverbend for over a decade and had seen enough cases stall because everyone chased the obvious clues while ignoring the quiet ones. When Emily Carter's case landed on her desk, it bothered her in a way she could not explain. The scene itself was too clean, too calm. People who died peacefully usually did so because of natural causes, but Emily's death had been ruled suspicious. Someone had been careful. That meant there was intention, and intention always left a trace. With no solid leads from the apartment, Laura turned to Emily's life. She spoke to co-workers, neighbors, friends, and students. Everyone described the same person: kind, responsible, predictable. Emily followed routines. She went to work at the same time every day, bought groceries on Fridays, and called her sister on Sunday nights. There were no secrets, at least none that showed on the surface. Late one evening, Laura sat alone in her office, the glow of her computer lighting the walls. She decided to do what many detectives still hesitated to do. She opened social media. Emily's name was everywhere. Photos, messages, tribute posts, strangers writing paragraphs about how tragic it was. Laura scrolled slowly, letting her instincts guide her. She wasn't looking for drama or theories. She was watching behavior. Who posted quickly? Who stayed silent? Who reacted in ways that didn't match the moment? That was when she found Megan's post. It was simple and honest, the kind of message written by someone desperate for answers. Laura read the comments carefully, her eyes moving from name to name. Most people reacted the same way, using hearts or sad faces. Some wrote long messages filled with emotion. Others shared the post without saying anything at all. Then Laura noticed it. A single like. It shouldn't have mattered. People clicked like for all kinds of reasons. Habit. Mistake. Lack of better options. But Laura felt a small pull of unease. She clicked the name attached to it. Daniel Brooks. Laura leaned back in her chair, memory staring. She had seen the name earlier that day in Emily's file. Daniel Brooks, age 34, former boyfriend. They had dated for almost 2 years. The relationship ended 6 months ago. According to friends, the breakup was difficult but not violent. No police reports. No restraining orders. Just two people who couldn't make things work. Still, Laura stayed at the screen. Most ex-partners reacted to news like this in obvious ways. Shock, grief, silence. Alike felt distant, almost careless. It was the kind of reaction people gave to photos of food or vacation pictures, not a plea for justice for a murdered woman. Laura clicked on Daniel's profile. His page was public, which surprised her. Many people locked down their accounts after something tragic. Daniel hadn't. His profile photo showed him smiling at the camera, standing near a lake. His recent posts were unremarkable. A shared article. A joke from a week ago. Nothing about Emily's death. No tribute. No message. No visible grief. Laura checked the timestamp on the like again. 3:17 a.m. She frowned. Riverbend was quiet at night. People slept. They didn't scroll Facebook unless they had a reason. Insomnia happened, sure, But Laura had learned to trust patterns. This felt off. She pulled up her notebook and wrote Daniel's name at the top of a page. The next morning, Laura requested Daniel's phone records. It was a routine step, justified by his past relationship with the victim. While she waited, she reviewed interviews again. Emily's co-workers said Daniel had shown up at the school once after the breakup, claiming he wanted to talk. Emily had been upset but not afraid. Friends said he didn't take the breakup well. He checked her social media often. He asked questions about who she was spending time with. Laura returned to Facebook and scrolled through Emily's profile. She noticed something else. Daniel had liked many of Emily's old posts, even weeks after they were published. Photos from months earlier. Quotes Emily had shared long ago. It was the behavior of someone who was watching closely, someone who didn't want to let go. The phone records arrived that afternoon. Daniel's phone had been active throughout the night Emily died. Messages sent, apps opened, data used. More importantly, his location data placed him near Maple Street just after midnight, the same street where Emily lived. When Laura brought Daniel in for questioning, he seemed relaxed. He sat comfortably, hands folded, eyes calm. He said he hadn't heard about Emily's death until he saw the Facebook post. He said he liked it as a way of showing respect. When Laura asked about the time, he shrugged and said he couldn't sleep. People who lie often offer too much explanation. Daniel offered very little. Laura asked him directly if he had been near Emily's apartment that night. Daniel paused, then said he sometimes drove around when he was stressed. He didn't remember exact locations. He said he didn't go inside her building. Laura nodded, her face neutral, but her mind raced. After the interview, she returned to her desk and stared at Megan's post again. Something was still bothering her. The like alone wasn't enough. It was a feeling, a sense that Daniel had interacted with the post too quickly, too easily. She contacted a tech specialist from the department. Together, they examined the post's activity history. What they found changed everything. Megan had originally posted the message in a private Facebook group shared only with family and close friends. She deleted it minutes later, thinking it was too emotional, and reposted it publicly. The public version was the one everyone saw. But the activity log showed something strange. Daniel Brooks had reacted to the post before the public version existed. Laura felt her pulse quicken. Daniel was not a member of the private group. He should not have been able to see that first post at all. Yet the data was clear. He had viewed and liked it. The only explanation was simple and terrifying. Daniel had access to Emily's Facebook account. Further investigation confirmed it. Daniel had logged into Emily's account multiple times after their breakup. Emily had never changed her password. Through her account, he could see private posts, messages, and group activity meant only for trusted people. That meant Daniel knew Emily was dead before most of the town did. Before the news. Before the police statements. Before the public plea for help. The like was no longer meaningless. It was a mistake. A small, careless action that revealed knowledge only someone close to the crime could have. Laura sat back in her chair, the weight of the discovery settling in. She had seen criminals caught by fingerprints, by cameras, by witnesses. But this was different. This was someone caught by habit. By the simple act of clicking a button without thinking about who might be watching. Laura closed her laptop slowly. Outside her office window, the town of Riverbend looked the same as always. Quiet, peaceful, unaware that a single digital reaction had just cracked open a murder case. And she knew, without a doubt, that Daniel Brooks was no longer just a former boyfriend. He was now the center of the investigation. The moment Detective Laura Hayes realized that Daniel Brooks had access to Emily Carter's Facebook account, the case shifted from uncertain to dangerous. What once felt like a quiet mystery now carried a sharp edge. This was no longer about strange timing or bad instincts. It was about control, access, and secrets hidden in plain sight. Laura knew digital evidence could be fragile. A wrong step, and it could dissipate. She moved quickly. She ordered a full forensic analysis of Emily's online life. Emails, social media accounts, cloud backups, search history, everything. A warrant was approved within hours. Officers collected Emily's laptop, tablet, and phone from evidence storage and brought them to the cyber unit. At the same time, another team obtained Daniel's devices, his phone, his laptop, and an old tablet found in his apartment. As the data began to surface, a quiet pattern emerged. Emily had been careful in most areas of her life, but when it came to Daniel, she had trusted him. Even after their breakup, she had never changed her passwords. Messages between them showed that she wanted distance, but didn't believe he was dangerous. She told friends he was having a hard time letting go, but insisted he would eventually move on. He never did. Investigators discovered that Daniel logged into Emily's Facebook account dozens of times after they broke up, sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning. He read her private messages. He looked through her photos. He watched her interactions with other people. When she posted something new, he often checked who liked it and who commented. He wasn't just watching her. He was studying her. Laura read through deleted drafts Emily had never posted. Short thoughts. Half-finished sentences. One message stood out. It had been written just days before her death and saved but never sent. "I feel like I'm being watched." That line sat heavy in the room. Phone data revealed more. Emily had searched for information about digital privacy, account security, and how to tell if someone else was accessing your social media. She had even bookmarked a page about changing passwords but never followed through. It was a small delay that cost her everything. Meanwhile, Daniel's devices told a different story. His phone contained no messages about Emily after her death. No searches about the investigation. No signs of panic. It was as if he believed he had covered every track. But forensic experts knew where to look. Hidden app data showed Daniel frequently used a private browsing mode. He searched for Emily's name repeatedly. He checked her location through tagged photos and old posts. He even searched how long certain substances stayed in the body, though the terms were vague enough to seem harmless on their own. On their own, none of these actions proved murder. Together, they told a story. Laura ordered Daniel back in for a second interview. This time, the room felt different. Daniel noticed it immediately. The friendly tone was gone. Laura's questions were slower, sharper. She mentioned the Facebook access casually, watching his reaction closely. For just a moment, his calm cracked. His eyes shifted. His jaw tightened. He admitted he still had access to Emily's account, but claimed she allowed it. He said she forgot to log out of his laptop months ago. He insisted he only checked her page because he was worried about her. Laura asked him if Emily knew he was reading her private messages. Daniel didn't answer right away. When Laura asked how he saw Megan's post before it went public, Daniel leaned back in his chair. He exhaled slowly, like someone tired of pretending. He changed his story. He said Emily called him the night she died. He claimed she sounded upset and confused. He said she asked him to come over. According to Daniel, when he arrived, Emily was already unconscious. He panicked. He didn't call for help. He left. Laura listened without interrupting. Then she asked the simplest question. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Daniel said he was scared no one would believe him. He said he thought leaving would protect him. He said he liked the Facebook post because he felt guilty and didn't know what else to do. It sounded rehearsed. The medical examiner's report arrived the next day, and it shattered Daniel's story completely. Emily Carter had been poisoned. The substance was rare, tasteless, and slow-acting. It caused confusion, weakness, and eventually cardiac failure. It left little trace and could easily be mistaken for natural causes if not specifically tested for. The estimated time of ingestion matched the night Daniel claimed Emily called him. Emily hadn't collapsed suddenly. She had been dying for hours. Laura felt a cold certainty settle in her chest. Poison required planning. It required access. It required patience. The investigation turned outward. Where could someone get such a substance? Not from local stores. Not from pharmacies. It was something used in specialized industrial settings. A search of online purchase records revealed the answer. The poison had been ordered through an online supplier under a fake name. The account was created using a temporary email address. The payment method was a prepaid card. It was careful, calculated, and meant to hide the buyer's identity. But no plan was perfect. The delivery address led to a shared package locker just 2 blocks from Daniel's apartment. Security footage showed a man wearing a hoodie and cap picking up the package. The footage was grainy, but the build, the walk, the posture all matched Daniel. When confronted with this evidence, Daniel said nothing. His silence spoke loudly. Still, Laura wanted more. She wanted motive. She wanted proof of intent. That proof came from Emily herself. A data recovery specialist managed to restore deleted Facebook messages from Emily's account. Most were ordinary conversations, but one message stood out. It was sent to Megan just hours before Emily's death. It was marked as delivered but never opened. "If anything happens to me, check my Facebook. He's watching." Laura read the message twice. Emily had known. She had sensed the danger but underestimated how close it was. The pieces finally aligned. Daniel had been watching Emily for months. When he realized she was moving on, growing distant, and planning changes in her life, something inside him snapped. He wanted control. If he couldn't have her, no one would. Using his access to her life, he chose a method that wouldn't leave bruises or broken doors. He used something invisible, something quiet. And then he made one fatal mistake. He reacted to a post he shouldn't have seen. In the digital age, crimes no longer ended at the scene. They continued online, where every click, every login, every reaction left a shadow. Daniel believed he was invisible behind screens and passwords. He believed his actions were buried under millions of others. He was wrong. As Laura prepared the case for trial, she thought about how easily the truth could have been missed. If Megan hadn't posted, if no one had noticed the like, if no one had looked twice, a murder that began in silence had been undone by noise. The digital trail was complete now. Messages, logins, purchases, locations. Together, they formed a timeline Daniel could not escape. And as the case moved forward, one truth became painfully clear. Emily Carter's voice had not been strong enough to stop her killer while she was alive. But in death, through a single message and a single mistake, she had spoken louder than anyone expected. By the time the case reached the courtroom, the town of Riverbend no longer felt small or quiet. News trucks lined the streets outside the courthouse. Reporters spoke into microphones, repeating the same phrase again and again. A murder solved by a Facebook like. The story spread far beyond the town, turning a local tragedy into a national obsession. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy. Wooden benches creaked as people shifted in their seats. Every place was filled. Some had come out of curiosity, others out of anger, and many out of grief. Emily Carter's photograph sat on the prosecution's table, framed and surrounded by white flowers. Her smile looked out at the room, calm and unaware of the storm around it. Daniel Brooks sat at the defense table, wearing a dark suit that seemed too stiff on his body. He kept his eyes forward, his expression controlled. Anyone who did not know the details might think he was just another man caught in a terrible misunderstanding. But the evidence waiting to be presented told a very different story. The trial began with opening statements. The prosecutor spoke slowly, carefully, explaining how this case was not solved by luck, but by attention. He described a man who believed he could hide behind technology, who thought digital actions were too small to matter. He told the jury they would see how one careless click revealed a guilty mind. The defense argued there was no direct witness to the poisoning. They said the case relied too heavily on interpretation, on assumptions made from online behavior. They warned the jury not to confuse coincidence with guilt. Then the evidence began. Detective Laura Hayes took the stand first. She described the early days of the investigation, the lack of physical clues, and the moment Megan's Facebook post caught her attention. She explained how unusual the like felt and why timing mattered. When she described seeing Daniel's name attached to the reaction at 3:17 in the morning, several jurors leaned forward. Laura did not exaggerate. She let the facts speak. A cybercrime expert followed. He walked the jury through Facebook's activity logs, explaining how Daniel viewed and reacted to Megan's original post before it became public. He showed login records proving Daniel accessed Emily's account multiple times after their breakup. Screens lit up with timelines, locations, and timestamps that told a clear story. This was not a single mistake. It was a pattern. The courtroom grew quiet as the jury absorbed the information. It was one thing to hear about a Facebook like. It was another to see how deeply it connected to everything else. Next came the medical examiner. She spoke calmly about poison, about how it could be administered without force, without leaving marks. She explained how Emily's symptoms would have progressed slowly, leaving her confused and weak. The jury listened as the examiner confirmed that Emily could have reached out for help, could have called someone she trusted, while already dying. Megan's name hung in the air. Then came the most emotional moment of the trial. Megan Carter took the stand. Her voice shook as she described her relationship with Emily, their daily calls, their plans for the future. She spoke about the night Emily stopped answering her messages. She told the jury how she posted on Facebook because she felt helpless, because she wanted someone, anyone, to know Emily mattered. When the prosecutor asked her to read the recovered message Emily had sent before her death, Megan paused. Tears filled her eyes as she read the words aloud. "If anything happens to me, check my Facebook. He's watching." The courtroom was silent. Even Daniel looked down. The defense tried to argue that Daniel's actions online showed obsession, not murder. They suggested someone else could have accessed Emily's apartment. They questioned whether the poison purchase could be definitively linked to Daniel. That argument fell apart when the delivery records were presented. Surveillance footage showed Daniel collecting the package. Financial records tied the prepaid card to a purchase Daniel made weeks earlier. The web tightened. But the most powerful moment came when the prosecutor returned to the beginning. He showed Megan's Facebook post on a large screen. He highlighted the reactions. Thousands of hearts and sad faces appeared. Then he zoomed in on the single like. Daniel Brooks. The prosecutor explained that liking the post was not a crime. What made it important was when and how it happened. Daniel reacted before the post was public. Before anyone outside a private group knew Emily was dead. Before the police released any details. He knew because he had been there. He knew because he had been watching. He knew because he caused it. The defense had no answer for that. During closing arguments, the prosecutor spoke about modern life. About how people leave pieces of themselves everywhere online. About how criminals sometimes forget that technology remembers what humans try to erase. He told the jury this case was not about Facebook. It was about choice. A choice to control, to harm, and to hide. The jury deliberated for hours. Outside, rain began to fall, washing the streets in gray. Inside, time seemed frozen. When the jury returned, everyone stood. The foreperson's voice was steady. Guilty. Daniel Brooks showed no reaction as the verdict was read. No anger. No relief. Just a blank stare, as if he had already accepted the outcome. Megan closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Justice did not bring his sister back, but it ended the waiting, the wondering, the fear that Emily's story would be forgotten. The judge sentenced Daniel to life in prison. As he was led away, his eyes finally lifted. For a brief moment, he looked toward the gallery, toward Megan, toward Emily's photograph. Then he was gone. The case left a mark on Riverbend. People talked differently about social media after that. They paid more attention to small details. They realized that the internet was not just a place for jokes and memories, but a mirror that reflected who people really were. Emily Carter's life ended quietly, but her story roared across the world. And it all came down to one small, careless action. A Facebook like that spoke louder than any confession. In the weeks after the trial ended, Riverbend slowly tried to return to something that felt like normal. The news vans disappeared. The courthouse steps stood empty again. But the silence that settled over the town was different from before. It carried memory, not peace. People no longer walked past Emily Carter's old apartment without glancing up at the windows. They no longer scrolled through social media without thinking about what might be hidden behind a simple click. Megan Carter stayed in Riverbend longer than she planned. She felt a responsibility she could not explain, as if leaving too soon would somehow betray her sister. She visited Emily's classroom, where students had filled the walls with handwritten notes and drawings. She read every one. Some were clumsy, some misspelled, but all were honest. Emily had mattered. That truth comforted her in ways the verdict never could. Detective Laura Hayes returned to her regular workload, but the case followed her. It showed up in quiet moments, in the glow of her computer late at night, in the way she now paused before dismissing anything as too small to matter. She had always believed in details, but this case reshaped that belief. It reminded her that modern crimes did not end at doors or bodies. They continued through data, habits, and digital footprints people never thought twice about. The department held a meeting weeks later to review the case. Younger officers listened closely as Laura explained how the investigation unfolded. She didn't talk about luck. She talked about attention, about noticing what didn't fit, about understanding that human behavior doesn't change just because it moves online. Obsession still looks like obsession. Control still looks like control. It just hides behind screens now. Emily's story began to influence how cases were handled across the state. Police departments requested training in digital evidence. Investigators learned to read timelines, reactions, and access logs the same way they once studied footprints and fingerprints. The phrase "the Facebook-like case" became shorthand in law enforcement circles, a reminder that even the smallest action could expose the biggest lie. For the public, the case changed something too. People began to question what they shared and who could see it. Old passwords were changed. Privacy settings were reviewed. Friends talked openly about digital boundaries, about how access could become a weapon in the wrong hands. Parents warned their children that the internet never forgets, but now those words carried weight, backed by a story too real to ignore. Emily Carter's name did not fade. Her school renamed the library corner she loved after her. A small plaque was placed near the shelves she often organized. It read simply, "In memory of Emily Carter, who believed history matters because people matter." Students passed it every day, many too young to understand the full story, but old enough to feel its importance. Megan eventually returned home, but she carried Riverbend with her. She started speaking at community events, not about the details of the murder, but about awareness, about trust, about listening to instincts before it was too late. She never blamed herself for the Facebook post. She knew now that it had done more than ask for help. It had given Emily a voice when she could no longer speak. Late one night, months after the verdict, Megan logged into Facebook. She scrolled past memories and photos, pausing at Emily's smile frozen in time. She noticed how many people still visited the page, leaving messages on birthdays and holidays. Emily's digital presence lived on, not as a shadow, but as a reminder. Megan typed a final post. She thanked everyone who had supported her family. She thanked the investigators who refused to give up. She wrote that justice had been served, but memory would do the rest. When she posted it, reactions appeared almost instantly. Hearts, comments, messages of love. This time, there was no wrong reaction. Far away, behind concrete walls and locked doors, Daniel Brooks lived in a different kind of silence. Prison stripped life down to routine and reflection. There were no screens to hide behind, no profiles to watch. The world he once controlled through access and observation was gone. His mistake followed him, whispered in court transcripts and news articles. He had not been caught by force or violence, but by arrogance, by the belief that something small could never undo something big. That belief had been wrong. Years later, true crime documentaries revisited the case. Podcasts dissected the details. Viewers debated what they would have done differently. Some focused on the psychology, others on the technology, but most agreed on one thing. The ending was unforgettable. A murder that left no marks. A killer who believed he was invisible. A truth revealed by a single click. The story endured because it felt uncomfortably close. Everyone used social media. Everyone reacted without thinking. The case asked an unsettling question. How much do our smallest actions reveal about us? Detective Laura Hayes retired 5 years after the trial. On her last day, she cleaned out her office slowly. At the bottom of a drawer, she found a printed copy of Megan's original Facebook post. She had kept it as a reminder, not of the crime, but of the responsibility that came with looking closer. She folded the paper and placed it in her bag. Outside the station, the river moved quietly, just as it always had. Riverbend remained a small town, but it would never again be a town where nothing happened. It had learned that the truth could hide in ordinary places, waiting for someone patient enough to notice. Emily Carter's life ended without warning, but her story changed how people saw the world. It taught them that justice could come from unexpected places, that attention mattered, that even in grief, something as simple as asking for help could spark a chain of events powerful enough to uncover the truth. And somewhere in the endless flow of the internet, buried under millions of reactions and posts, one Facebook-like remained frozen in time. A reminder that the smallest actions can carry the loudest consequences.